Hello, friends. This week, we're going to build on some of the concepts that we discussed last week. Last week, we talked about Kabbalah. Kabbalah as our ability to receive higher intelligence, how accurate of intelligence we're able to receive. Not only intelligence, creativity, love, peace. And we talked about our bodies, our minds being vessels. And the more aligned our vessel is with truth, the more coherent it is, the more pure it is, the cleaner and the clearer the intelligence that comes through us, and the love and the peace. And we want to build on this concept because we think this is a really powerful metaphor. This idea that actually everything in our life can be looked at as a vessel, whether it be our physical spaces, our bedroom, desk space, our cars, our living room space, these physical spaces as vessels, and not only influencing our minds, but also thinking about if it is a vessel, how coherent and aligned is that space with drawing in the energies that you want for it, whether that be peace, love, creativity. Also thinking about other things as vessels. Our mind is a vessel. And what are we putting into our minds? And how does that influence the quality of intelligence that we're receiving through our minds? Our days as a vessel, and how we start our day, and what intentions we go into our days with. And even relationships as vessels, relationship as a container, as a co-created vessel with two people. How are we contributing to creating an aligned relationship vessel that is drawing in those qualities that we want into that relationship? So, Mitra, to start off, physical spaces as a vessel. What is your perspective on that?
First, I have to say I'm not an expert in Kabbalah, so that what I'm speaking about, because you mentioned it, it's all about my own contemplation. But for me, anything that is around us and we have a relationship with, including our space, is really a two-way highway or freeway because we are affecting each other. So how I am feeling and I enter, say, my room, you mentioned, uh, that affects the total energy of the room. And how room is arranged or is, because there's more than arrangement, it's also the energy that it holds, affects me as I enter it. So your question is very valid question. How does that affect us? And how do we affect it? It's a very fascinating way of looking at ourselves and the things around us in our life. One of them being our space that we're in, our rooms.
Let's get a little bit more granular here. When we're talking about a bedroom, and when we're thinking about the bedroom as a container, as a vessel to be able to receive intelligence and peace and whatever energies we want to call in, what are specific things we should be aware of in terms of how aligned that bedroom, that space is with the qualities that we want to call in?
So first of all, when we understand everything that we place in our bedroom or anywhere else brings about their own consciousness. So the more things are there, the more opportunity for uncalled energies or called energies, if they're intentional, to be there. That's why minimalistic, meaning the less is better kind of idea, is very helpful. If I only have what I need, or I only have what really it goes home for me, as opposed to something that someone suggested that it's a good idea to put there, or I saw in somebody else's bedroom. It really makes it more possible because we're here speaking energetically. We're not decorators, and I definitely don't know anything about how beautify a room, but I know how make it lighter and allow it to fulfill the purpose for which it exists. Our sleeping space, as you said, is a space that allows us to basically plug in to the world of invisible and connect to higher consciousness, ours or much higher consciousness than ours, and receive. You called it intelligence. One may call it messages, whatever it is. Receive that which we need.
Yeah.
And when there are a lot of things there, and when everything has its own history, then we realize that we may be doing three things by placing stuff in our room. Either they are supporting our connection, or they're neutral in their essence and they're just neither here nor there, or they are really bringing an obstacle for our connection.
Yeah. Yeah. I even think about getting up out of bed. My bed is also, if I see my bed, which is a part of my bedroom, both of which are vessels, making my bed in the morning, does that, how does that impact the quality, the energy of that space?
You're saying, I am done with this activity, I've cleared it, and I'm announcing that I am going into a different experience.
Minimizing the clutter, that's something that I've been really intentional about the last 12 months, really, is reducing the amount of things in my spaces, the spaces that I spend a lot of time in, and creating space for fresh energies to come through. The more cluttered a space is, the less space there is for newer, fresher energies to come through that space. And also thinking about what are the things that I would want in that space that would cultivate the energies that I want. Things like this wall decor piece that I have in the background, right? To me, that's a symbol that feels very coherent and I resonate with deeply. And plants being another one. Filling my space with plants and greenery. Just for me, it adds coherence to the space, beauty to the space, contributes to this alignment that I'm wanting for my space to have with the higher intelligence. And so those energies can come through.
So that would be
Yeah.
a good question to ask. That is this thing that I'm placing in my bedroom or is placed already in my bedroom? Is it helping, hindering, or neutral in its essence? So you're really um, auditing, if you like. One of the most um, heavy things that I see in people's bedrooms are
Mm.
TV sets.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I see it in children's bedrooms, and I'm thinking, I would take that because that is like saying, world, bring whatever you want
Mm.
into my bedroom,
That's a really interesting perspective. I haven't seen it that way. Yeah.
whatever you want. Trauma, drama, bad news, good news, like whatever you want. My bedroom is your bedroom. Bring it here and do whatever you want to. And I think that is a very, very challenging energy, or the computers for that matter. Like I always take all my gadgets out of the bedroom. And people say, but I want to know what time it is. First of all, why do you want to know in the middle of the night what time it is?
Mm.
But I understand that you may have a meeting. Like sometimes I get up when I have meeting with overseas clients. I have to be ready by 6 o'clock in the morning. So I have to get up really early. But then that's what good old fashioned, alarms are for.
Mm.
We used to have them. You probably don't remember.
Mhm.
They used to ring, or put your phone outside and let it ring in another room and alarm you
Yeah.
that it's there. But very intentional about, because computers are almost energetically like TVs. It's
Mm.
like you're bringing the world into there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really interesting perspective. So let's talk about the workspace. I used to have a very cluttered workspace, papers and just stuff, little. I just have my pencil holders, all these things, right, on the desk. Again, particularly in the last year, being intentional about clearing that space, keeping it as minimalist as possible. And for me, that's had a really actually profound impact. You know, again, creating space for, in this case, creativity to come through, inspiration to come through. Is there anything else? Like, is there any particular suggestions you have for people and their workspaces?
I think workspaces are places that we get things done. Okay. If you look at it that way, the question then becomes very specific. What on my desk is helping me to get things done or create things to get done? So creativity and productivity. These are the two main things that happens at our desk, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, anything that is on my desk need to be conducive to either creativity or productivity or both.
Mm-hmm.
Anything, like I'll show you something that I have. It's quite heavy. I have a salt light here. Okay. I turned it off so that you don't see. This gives me, and the rock is from a very special place and it means a lot to me. Um, my partner has given it to me.
Mm.
There is a lot of things about this light and it looks almost out of place when it's here. But anytime I need creativity and energy because salt is an amazing mineral. And there's a whole episode we can do on salt, but that's another time. Salt is amazing for me.
Mm.
It's almost like a teacher. And
Mm.
so I just place my hand on it and it really speaks to me. So I can't say what to do because it really depends on the person. Or there is this crystal that brings the light for me.
Mm.
It's funny.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't arrange these. You're just asking. I'm picking them up.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm.
this is made out of crystal. It's a
Mm-hmm.
very interesting shape. It means something to me in my spiritual world.
Mm.
And this is placed right in front of me. So
Mm.
this
Yeah.
is interesting. So things that either add to my productivity or my creativity. And then there's like productivity, like my pens are here, my paper is here. I always have pen and paper because
Mm.
that allows me to write things down and get them done. So
Yeah.
productivity.
Yeah.
So really, I'm giving the question back to you and our interview friends. Ask yourself, what is placed in front of me on my desk? Is it adding to my productivity or to my creativity? And is there a balance between the two? Because we want to have creativity and productivity, the feminine and the masculine, both working together while we're sitting at our desk.
I would even refine it further because I can think of 12 things right now that my mind can say will add to my productivity, but how much, right? And individually, also all together, when they're all together in my physical space, actually it's counterproductive because it becomes then a cluttered space. So it can be, a even more refined question is, does it meaningfully add to my
I
productivity?
like
Because,
your question. I like your question. Another salt, by the way. I have a heart
yeah.
salt. But what it is in fear, we accumulate. In passion, we bring about what we need. So that question, which is a very good question that you presented, is only important when I believe and I see that I've accumulated too much in the state of fear. Because in fear, there is no abundance. I have a more and more and more and more and more kind of craving. So great point that you bring up.
Yeah. Yeah, we're all at different, places and states, and on a given day, I can be in a state of fear and,
That's
be
true.
very much in that mindset of accumulation, and other days not so much. Moving that even to things like our desktop, right? So, we can see how this principle applies to all of our spaces, and if we can apply them to more of our spaces, how would that impact us energetically? How would that impact the quality of the intelligence we're able to receive? Having a desktop that is cluttered with many icons and programs and temporary files that you've saved on it, could clearing that desktop space, how might that impact the vessel of your computer and the vessel of your own creativity when you're working on your computer, especially if you do a lot of work on your computer? And the same with the phone. How aligned is that vessel which we use all the time, right? Most of us are using our phone hours. a day. So thinking about the phone as a vessel too, and how aligned, how clean, how coherent is the way we've set up even our home screen, the lock screen, all of it, right?
Yes.
The more we can apply this principle to the different vessels, to the different spaces and containers in our life, I think the more benefit we see from this principle.
As I'm listening to you, Ben, I'm realizing, and I'm inviting our interview friends to contemplate on the same. It sounds like everything that we have and everywhere that we are, we need to ask the question of what is the role, what is the intention of being here? And that's a very clarifying question. For instance, my car is my tool. My bedroom, as you called it, is a place for restfulness and inspiration. And my desk is for getting things done and creating things. My phone is my connection. We can go on and on. We can even go to things that are neither a thing nor a space. We can go to calendars. My calendar is where I put my priorities and say this is what's important to me. So when we start paying attention to things and places to be a vessel in our life, then the first question is, what's the purpose of this? That's the first question. And then the question becomes the second, once I clarify that. And it might be different for different things. I mean, I remember I was teaching something similar back at UCLA when people used to come in person. And I remember a young man said, but Mitra, you should see my space. I mean, I live, cook, sleep, entertain, everything in like a space about like 1/3 of this classroom. So that's my space. And I said, all right, I understand. Then make the allocation very clear. Like if I say this room was the only place I had, this is where I live, right?
Mm.
Then I say this corner is my working corner. That corner is my resting corner. That corner is my creativity corner, and so on and so forth. So being intentional, clarify what is it for. Two, ask yourself, what I have there or the way it's set up or the way it is this conducive to accomplishing and arriving at that place? And then the third question is, what do I need to let go? What do I need to bring in? And what do I need to keep?
Yeah, yeah, I love that. Really potent questions, and yeah, thinking about even when there isn't physical, like you don't have walls separating a space, you can in your mind set up sections in one open space. You can have different parts of the space being dedicated to different things. We're talking about these physical spaces being vessels, and the physical spaces themselves being able to receive a higher quality energy and a higher quality intelligence, which of course influences our minds. Everything is connected, right? It influences our minds. And actually, all of that stuff is going to be a reflection of our mind as well. It's a mirror of our mind. Moving on to now the mind, the most important vessel of all, right? The mind as a vessel. If our mind is a receiver, if it has the capacity to receive higher intelligence and creativity, and its ability to do that is dependent on the contents in the mind, how the mind is set up, how purified the mind is, then what are we putting into our minds? And how is that contributing to our ability to receive the energies, the intelligence more clearly? How much news are we watching, and how is that news influencing our mind? Or social media, or whatever content? What books are you reading that are actually enhancing the alignment of your mind with what you're wanting to call in? So let's expand on this, Mitra. What do you have to say about the mind as a vessel?
So the first thing I wanted to add to was when you said that our space is the reflection of our mind. I want to say it's also the informer to our mind.
Mm,
And that
yeah.
is a very important part of our journey. And that's when, I mean, wisdom was saying that for thousands of years, but when science proved that, it became a very important piece of consciousness life, because it truly is a two-way street between the mind and the space, between mind and anything else. And I think it's important to say that, because then we understand it's about, let's say I enter this room or enter your room. One is with what information and what intention I enter your room, what's happening in my mind. And then two is what's happening in the room and in space that I entered. That's why spaces that we're talking about and the vessels that we're referring to become important, because they also inform the mind.
Mm.
So that's a very important part of the journey, that we know that I need to pay attention to both the inner and the outer, what's going on in the mind and what's going on around my mind. And you're right, minds have a lot of influence, and you can tell. I mean, I know, because I'm quite aware of energies, and my energy in specific. I could be sitting in a public place, and I can tell you without looking that a energy entered that is conducive to my well-being, or it's not.
Mm.
And I'm saying it intentionally this way because I don't believe in bad and good. I believe are helpful or unhelpful,
Hmm.
And I
Yeah.
can tell. I don't know who it was, but I can tell that, from this angle, an energy entered
Mm.
that is very helpful for me, and it's
Mm.
very conducive to my journey. And then
Hmm.
I turn around and I smile at the person, or
Mm.
the other way around. I have a story about this, which is quite interesting. Many years ago, when I lived in another city in another country, my friend invited me to a very interesting gathering. And as I entered through the door, I went through a very, very strong energy between two people. And I felt it. And I went back, I remember, and I did it again, and I picked up on their exchange of energy. I asked my friend, because she was the host, and I said, who is that person and who is that person? They were standing in completely different parts of the space. And she said, they're friends and they're both my friends. I said, okay. So fast forward 3 months later, she calls me very early in the morning, and I ask her what's wrong. She said, Mitra, what did you know about the two people? I said, which two people? And she was referring to those. I said, nothing. She said, you didn't know them? I said, no. Did you know anything about them? I said, no. She said, why did you ask me how are they related to each other? I said, because there was a very strong energy between them. And she said they were close friends, both as a couple, and they just came out right
Mm.
that night. And she was calling me in the morning. She found out that they've come out and said that they've been interested in each other and having a relationship, and they
Mm.
both are leaving their partners and getting together. And this has been going on for apparently
Wow.
years.
Yeah.
And she thought like I knew them when I had the gossip on them. And I said, no, it was so strong that I picked it up, and I went back, and I came and I went back, and I thought, this is so strong.
Yeah.
And so that we are all energetic beings. And the question is, what can I do when I enter a space with my mind to make it more conducive to the purpose of going to that space?
Mm. Mm. So being intentional, and we can be more intentional when our mind is more clear and more pure, and when our mind is more aligned. So you work with so many different people. I imagine you can perceive, the things that they're doing, the things that they're putting into their mind that are influencing their mind, that is impacting their ability to even understand, get clear on what their intentions are, and aligning with intentions that are actually for their higher well-being versus intentions that might be feeding the ego aspect of the self, that is leading to more unhappiness than it is actually more happiness. So what have you observed about what people are putting into their minds that is helpful versus unhelpful?
What is fascinating to see over and over again is that they tell me, and I believe them, that they want one thing, and what they're doing, they're putting exactly 180 degrees opposite of what they want.
Like,
And like, I want friendship, I want connection, and I enter with objection and judgment. And it's like, wanting to be spiritual and going to a bar that it's for drinking and picking up people. So it's a wrong place. It's a wrong match. Again, not good or bad, but it's not conducive to our purpose. So the most important part of this question that you're asking is for me, for our interview friends, to clarify, what is it that I want?
and yes, and what is aligned with what I want. So
Then that's the second question.
to expand on what you're saying, the person who is conflicted, right? They're saying they want one thing, they want friendship and connection, and yet their actions are showing something different. The question that arises is, what content is that person exposing themselves to that is either moving them towards what they want or moving them away? If they're watching, a bunch of TV shows, reality TV shows and whatnot, that is perpetuating the mindset that actually creates separation, how is that content affecting the vessel, right?
Yes.
How is that affecting the decisions we make, the clarity that we have, versus watching some other content that is more inspirational, that is more
Yes.
aligned with what we're looking for, which is true connection. And how does that influence then when, you know, a day later, when we're deciding whether or not to go to that bar and what our intentions are, how does that influence our decision? Does it make the decision easier or clearer for us?
Yes.
So
Or it could be something simple as music in the car.
music too. Yeah.
Music, especially. I mean, the famous saying that my music drives my car, not myself. It
Hmm.
is so true. So let's say you're in a car that you're feeling unsafe and not comfortable. Um, and often I see either the conversation or the music in the car is not helpful.
Hmm.
Or maybe it's not even there. So if I'm really rattled and if I really want to be, centered, I actually take 2 minutes to choose my music. And it's amazing because music is frequency, so is everything else, how helpful it is. And that goes with relationships, that goes with the music, that goes with the things that we place in the car. So what we're talking about here, Ben, is about being very intentional about what we listen to, what we say, what we think, what we collect, what we accumulate, and what we place around us. It becomes an intentional life rather than, we don't have a recipe. We don't have anything to share beside asking, have you considered why you want to go here? Have you considered why you have a bedroom? Have you considered what's the purpose of your desk? Have you considered what kind of a exchange would you like to have when you go to visit a friend, for
Yeah.
instance?
Yeah. Yeah. The being clear on the intention is super important because that will dictate what kind of vessel we're creating, right?
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. And are we
So
taking the vessel, as you called it, is the vessel helping us to go closer or further away from where we want to go? So that clarification and that intentionality becomes the key to working with the vessels around us and examining whether the vessels are helpful, um, hurtful, or neutral in their essence.
yeah, and I want to shine a light on something because I can see a part of me, an older part of me, being like taking all of this so literally, right, and becoming obsessive about, making sure the vessels of everything are clean and pure, and uh, I want to just emphasize that Mitra and I are actually, the way we approach this is not so literally. It's more, it's a softer, it's a softer approach. It's a paradigm. But what are we introducing here? It's a metaphor, a framework to think about the various aspects of our lives. And When we can do just a few of these things, in my experience, right, doing just a few of these things, when I see the benefits of them, when I start to see the benefits, the decisions become organic. They're not things that I need to sit and I need to analyze and think like, what is this, or how is this impacting my vessel and whatnot? It becomes a more intuitive process. And the thing that is just governing it is this overarching uh, understanding and paradigm. Yeah,
That's a great point. Thank you, Ben, for saying that, because then it becomes almost impossible to do things. But in
yeah,
a general sense, and we can start like one by one. I remember I I started by one drawer at the time. I just go with one drawer and see, is it intentional, or does it, add to the purpose of this thing being there? And that makes life much lighter, and that's the idea. But if we make the actual process heavy, then we're defeating the purpose. And I'm really glad that they call them, what do they call them? Spiritual activists. That is like, no, don't say that, and don't buy that, and don't touch that. And you just go, whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay, sorry. So yeah,
yeah,
that was a great point. I really like that you brought that up. And I invite our interview friends to look at it that way. Very light touch. Just gently, just scanning and seeing, does this add to the intention of what I have for this space and this vessel, or not? Simple.
yeah. Going again back to the mind and aligning the mind, thinking about the mind and its ability to receive intelligence, higher intelligence, clearing the space, right? When we think about, so now this is an interesting, when it comes to meditation, right? That's the time, that's a decluttering time. It's a time to offload maybe some of the stuff that's cluttering our mind. Meditation is a time to attune, consciously attuning the mind to being alignment with those intentions that we're setting, alignment with these higher truths and principles.
Yes. And there again, it's a both physical and mental, and that marriage is always there. I remember when I was a child, one day I went to my bedroom and I didn't change my clothes, and my dad was like insisting that I, change into my, and I thought like, they're clean, Dad. They're just like clean. He said, no, but you have sat down everywhere outside. You have gathered everything. I mean, I didn't understand the energetic aspect of it, but I understood like from cleanliness point of view. I said, oh, I never thought about that. That's true. With these pants, with these, shirts, I've sat down and touched everything. The other tradition is, which is the more of a Eastern tradition, is taking your showers at night. You're
Mm,
cleansing,
mm,
symbolically and
yeah,
literally, from the energies of the world that you have picked up during the day, as
yeah,
opposed to washing the energy that you had in your sleep, which usually, when we are clear, those are the better energies. Those are
mm,
from a
mhm.
better place. But these are all personal. There is no formula. We're not an expert in that area, but there are some suggestions and there's some intentionality that might help you, and you will find out for yourself what would work for you, what feels right for you. And that's the test. Did it feel right? When I did this, it really felt right. I remember when I started taking shower at night, that really felt right. I said, okay, that makes sense. I brush my teeth. I wash my hands. I wash my face. Why not wash my body from, you know, whatever it was that all the tensions that I gathered throughout the day, and
Yeah,
start fresh.
yeah. I very much, I see my showers as that. Absolutely, all the energies that I've accumulated through the day, everything, just washing it all away when I go in the shower at night. Yeah. We talked about a lot of things, a lot of ways of looking at our vessels. There are other things in our aspects of our lives that are vessels, which we won't have time to get into now, but these are things that you can contemplate on.
Yes.
Your day as a vessel, how intentional you are about how you start your day, how aligned is the day that you're starting with what you're wanting to call in for that day, and relationships as vessels, as a co created vessel. that you're creating with someone else and the energies that we're bringing into that, and what are we doing to bring alignment to that vessel. What we're introducing here, this paradigm, we didn't highlight this specifically, but it's that we are not individuals that are siloed from the rest of life, right? We're connected to something greater than us, a higher intelligence that actually wants to support us, that wants to bring harmony into our lives. And we're responsible for creating alignment with that. We have that free will. And with that free will, we can allow ourselves to be supported in ways that are beyond just our doing. That can be really powerful. That can be really powerful and healing, and lead to synchronicity and all sorts of potential miracles. We hope you receive value from this. And Mitra, is there anything you want to end with?
Be intentional and use your vessels mindfully.
Yeah. All right. Until next time, have a beautiful rest of your week, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in today. For a list of the links and other resources referenced in this episode, check out the podcast description.
If you're benefiting from our podcast, we'd love if you could help us reach more people by subscribing. Your support means the world to us. From our hearts to yours, we thank you.